Hello everybody, happy weekend. We're going to do our weekly market outlook here, but I just wanted to start with a few questions I've been asked recently. One is, why am I not involved or in any of the Reddit trades, AMC, GameStop, BlackBerry, and so on? Everybody I know in my life that's in on those trades is doing it out of FOMO, out of an emotion. I know there's a technical reason behind it or fundamental reason behind it, but it is not the way that I trade or we trade. And that goes with the question about crypto. People want to know why we are not actively trading crypto. I've talked about this in previous videos. I buy and hold crypto. I set take profit points. I use a trailing stop. But those are not things that we are going to talk about here, as it is not within my system. So with that, let's get into it. Let's start with the Forex Baskets. So we're just going to take a look at what happened this week and try to see if we can get some idea of how next week's going to be. So let's start on the weekly chart. Just looking at the weekly chart, this is this week's candle for the Aussie. It's definitely a bearish candle, no doubt about that. It is nearing, coming back to the daily chart, this previous kind of support, and it's nearing this little resistance here. I imagine that if it does turn around and take a bounce, it probably does it right here where the moving average is crossing. So I'd say overall the Aussie is pretty weak in my opinion. It's looking to have at least a couple days down. All right, moving on to the Canadian dollar. I was wrong about this one. Let's look at the weekly chart. There's a strong resistance here. We came into it. I really thought we were just going to have a big move down. And the reason is that if we're looking here at the weekly chart, every time it's come up into this area, 1, 2, 3, 4. Every time it's come really up into this area, it's taken a big candle down. If we scroll out to the daily chart, we can see that it kind of had a mixed week. You can see that candle on the weekly chart. It's kind of a hammer, but it's also kind of bullish in a sense with that big bottom wick. So I don't really know what the Canadian dollar is going to do. Again, I thought it was going to go down this past week. Now I kind of think that since it didn't do that reversal pattern, and it has the support of all the moving average, it actually might break this. It's already breaking the pattern in a sense, right? It didn't have the big candle down. It's making some higher lows in general. It's an overall trend up. So I'm going to put that as slightly bullish. All right, the Swissy. We can see that's a relatively neutral but definitely bearish candle. It turned around on the weekly chart right at this resistance line. If we go to the daily chart, it just turned around perfectly at that resistance line. I think the Swissy as a safe haven currency, and as the stock market continues to go up, I think that's coming down. I think that's one of the weaker currencies moving into next week. All right, our friend the euro. I have this huge old trend channel that's held since it started in March of 2017. And again, a bearish candle, but nothing immensely bearish. It is bouncing kind of off the low of that trend channel. Whoops. So I want to put that as slightly bullish, but nothing crazy. All right, the pound. Let's look at the weekly chart. Well, that had a nice week. That's a bearish or bullish candle. It definitely has a long bottom wick. It is green. And let's see, it's definitely at this resistance zone, but it's got room, right? It's got a lot of room to go up there to the top. So I'm going to put that as super bullish, not a 3, not the highest, but definitely bullish. All right, the yen weekly chart. That's a bearish candle, no doubt about it. Japan had a rough week. Again, it has, the actual line of where it's come down to test, is all the way down here. So it's got a little room to go down. However, it's in that zone. It's in the zone I drew because it's where these candles stopped. And this one back here, see if I can drag that out, right? It's where these candles kind of stopped. I can actually pull that zone up a tiny bit. So it's in there and it's kind of taking a bounce. I think it's weak. I think it's got room to go. Similar to the Swissy in a sense. So I'm going bearish on that. The New Zealand dollar. That's a bullish candle. It does have a long upper wick, but it's pretty bullish. Go to the daily chart. It's a little bit concerning that it stopped out here at this, resistance line. But overall, I'd say that's got a bullish bias. It's definitely been trending up. And last but not least is our US dollar. That's a mess in there. It looks super neutral. Yeah, just 2 dojis in a row. You can see, just look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at the last 2 weeks. It opened here. It closed at literally the same spot. Oh, just super neutral on the dollar. All right, we're just going to go through the stock sectors really quick. None of these are super interesting, so I'm actually just going to skip through until we see something interesting, super strong or super weak. Nothing crazy there, nothing crazy there. Energy actually had a pretty weak week. A little bullish, nothing crazy. But I do think that has some more room for a pullback. Tech, nothing super interesting. Healthcare, neutral. Industrials, real estate. This one, there's not a ton of stocks in the real estate market that I trade. But this is a bullish. It was the most bullish of any sector this week as far as that candle goes. If we look at the daily chart, we kind of are right at this resistance. We might get a little cup and handle and a pullback, or we might smash right through it, but that's a strong one. Here's communication services, kind of a similar story happening here. We had a pretty bullish candle, but getting tested on that little previous resistance. I think there's a possibility we might get a pullback and then a breakthrough, but also pretty strong. And then utilities. Utilities just had a big bullish or bearish candle there. I think it's got a little room to go, probably down to retest at least this area, maybe even there, maybe the moving average. Either way, it's got room to go down, I think. It's definitely kind of trending down. So that puts our whiteboard as, let's see if I can find it, as this. This is what we have. We have communication and real estate up at the top, then consumer discretionary and tech, then financials, industrials, and materials. Healthcare is neutral, consumer staples slightly negative, energy a little bit more negative, and utilities as the expected to be worst performing sector. And in Forex, notice we have nothing in the 3 or the -3. We do have pound up here in 2, the Canadian dollar, euro, and Kiwi at 1, the dollar as neutral as it gets. -1, we have the Aussie and the yen, and -2, we have the Swissy. So that's what my whiteboard looks like this week. So now let's get into a few stocks and Forex pairs that I am watching this week. There's the S&P, there's the S&P 500. There's the NASDAQ. All right, dollar Swissy. This is one we traded a whole bunch this week. There was some good movement on it, even though the dollar's neutral. I think we have a good kind of setup here. I think there is a real possibility that... Oh, did I delete? I think I deleted a moving average. Let me add that back in. I think that there is a real possibility that we get a nice move back to this zone here. And I'll pull my stuff off the screen. Back to this zone here, or maybe this zone here. It kind of did. Or perhaps the moving average and we get another move down. So that's what I'm watching for in the dollar Swissy at this point. Dollar CAD kind of has two little zones going here, right? Has a support zone down here and kind of a resistance zone up here. I do think that if we scroll out to the weekly chart, take a look at where the dollar CAD is. It's just breaking this previous low back in 2017, and then there's this low back in 2015, and then from there it's smooth sailing down. We also kind of have a double top formation going there. I think the dollar CAD, I'm definitely bearish on the dollar CAD. So I may look for a few things. I may look for this moving average to make it through the zone, and if we can, maybe take a short off there. We'll set a take profit down here at the bottom of the zone and see if we can let the rest run down quite a bit. Aussie Kiwi, I'm going to pull up the daily chart. We have this zone, which isn't my favorite zone, but there and there where it's tested. It's kind of turning around near that area. But I do think this was a strong support here. We had 1, 2, 3 solid hits. I think we may get a pullback up, and we may get a nice, hopefully an entry there. We may get it off the 50 period. We may even get it off the 200 period, which I would like even more on the 4-hour chart. But that's what I'll be looking for in the Aussie Kiwi. Next, we have the Kiwi CAD. I'm going to just go out to the daily chart again. We have a nice supply zone, 1, 2, 3. We took this long, our members. I think I might have sent this in the free group too. I can't remember. We took it long. We took it long for several reasons. It bounced out of that area, and it bounced out of our trend line right there. But it did bounce right at the 200 period moving average on the 4-hour chart, right at the 50 period moving average on the daily chart, and took a nice strong bounce down. I do think it's a possibility that we either get a break through this area and then maybe can play a retest. But I do think it's possible we get another move down here coming to the 4-hour. I do think it's possible, maybe even more likely, as it's kind of stayed in this range. I do think it's possible we could get another bounce off this. So that's what I'll be looking for. All right, on to the pound yen. We did have a nice little kind of high here. Let's get it. A nice little high here where it tested, and then it broke it. I think we could get a pullback here and a bounce up. It'd be cool if it happened with the moving average moving through. Otherwise, that's a sharp move. I think we're due for a pullback. So that's it on on Forex. The dollar Swissy, the dollar CAD, the Aussie Kiwi, the Kiwi CAD, and the pound yen. Just some I'm looking at. Apple, going into stocks, there's this long trend line, pretty good since September of last year, and we're getting pretty close to hitting it once again. We didn't really get very far off it, kind of like you can see this time. We didn't get really far off it and then took the bounce. It happened a little bit the same way this time, didn't get really far and then took the big bounce. This is not even a huge move, but this is a really small move. So I'm hoping we can do that, hit the trend line, and get a good bounce on Apple. Of course, if it does break down, I will look for that break and the retest. All right, Chevron has a nice little support zone going there. I don't love, as if you watch my videos, you'll know I don't love messing with energy stocks too much just because they're susceptible to the price of oil and whatnot. But there's a nice little zone happening here. We can also see the moving average moving through, so I'll be looking for a real test of this like we saw happen here, and then some sort of reversal candlestick pattern to take long. Microsoft just simply, may not happen this week, but looking for another bounce off that moving average. It's kind of used it quite a bit for the last year or so. Lowe's, probably sick of hearing me talk about Lowe's and Home Depot. Both have a really beautiful setup. I think that this is a nice supply zone, and I think we could get a really pretty pullback there and a bounce up. I just think it's a great buying opportunity. I don't have it in my watch list, but Home Depot looks almost exactly the same. It's kind of crazy they're not the same stock. Comcast is one that we are in. We're long an option on it right now. I think it may, luckily that option has some time left in it because it may pull back. But this has been respecting, for the most part, this trend channel that goes all the way back to April of last year, so basically a year. And it's kind of respecting, you can see the 200 period moving average is just following the bottom of the trend line. So we could look for another bounce off that. That may be this week, it may not. AMCR, I am not sure how this got in here. Oh yeah, it's been bouncing a little bit off the 200 period moving average. Nothing crazy good, like not a long time of doing it, but I do think it's a possibility we get one of my Bollinger Band bounces off this. And if you don't know what that is, we have the video up now in our entries playlist, but I think it's possible we get a test here of this moving average and then the nice kind of reversal pattern up. So I'll be watching that on Amcor. It's a cheap stock. It'll be a cheap option with relatively small risk. And lastly, we have CVS, and this one's kind of a long shot. I'm not crazy about it. But we can see that it was kind of had a trend line here, and then it broke it. It broke right through, and then it kind of bounced and went up again. I think we may get another bounce. It's definitely possible we get another bounce off that trend line. I also think it's possible that we get a real pullback. A move like that often has a pullback. And if we just take this zone right here, which is a pretty good zone, right? This almost hit it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this fluttered around in it. I do think it's possible, again, not this week, but I'm watching it just in case. It's possible we could get another nice entry off that. And it's possible we get an entry somewhere, I'm totally guessing, but it's just something I'm watching as that moving average moves up. Somewhere in the beginning of July or mid-July, we may get a really nice entry off that. So those are just some of the stocks I'm watching. Remember, you can join at mrobertstrading.com. Or check out the Telegram. I think the link is below the video here. We send some free signals out there. They did pretty well this week. We had a lot of Forex trades this week. So with that, let's actually go over the trades we took this week. I'm not going to go in depth on them, but let's just take a look. Here's our Forex trades. If you're a member, if you're not a member, this may be foreign to you. Maybe you are a member of the free list, the free subscriber list on Telegram, so you recognize some of these trades. We got some nice trades open right now. The Aussie Swissy and the Pound Kiwi both are in TP1. We've gotten some good pips on them. The Aussie CAD, that's right there at TP1 but hasn't hit yet. And then the Kiwi Dollar and the Kiwi Yen are both down. It leaves us with about a net of 183 pips open though, which is nice. And then here we had some nice trades this week. We took the Dollar Swissy twice, and the rest are all here. The Kiwi Yen, the Euro Aussie, the Kiwi Yen again, the Euro US Dollar, the Kiwi Swissy, the Euro CAD, and the Kiwi CAD again. That was a net of 246 pips. That is the end of the month, so that brings our 12-month rolling average to 219 a month. It's not bad. I'd like to get that up, but can't complain. Stocks, not the best week. All we closed was eBay and PG. eBay, we got $6.50 a share. I'm glad we closed that when it did because it went ex-dividend and it fell quite a bit. PG, we got $4.85 a share. Nothing great, but can't complain about it. The NASDAQ trade we took, I put it in stocks, even though it was more of a Forex trade. We got 78 points on the index on it, and 280 still open. And our open stocks, we have MasterCard and TP1. That should be positive 270, and we're still positive 279 on the other half. 3M we're down 70 cents per share. Boeing up 528, IBM up 38 cents. So that leaves us with $2.17 open and 11.35 closed. So that's a pretty good week. That does bring our monthly average down, however, to 1919. All right, and finally we have options. We have all of these open. I'm not going to go through all of them. All of these open. We have about $3 in unrealized profit. We closed the knee. We have the eBay that we closed before it went ex-dividend. Got $69 on that contract. The Twitter, which I know had a huge upside risk or upside potential, we closed that one for $125 profit per contract. It just might start turning around. It didn't move as fast up as we wanted it, so it doesn't really have a chance to hit that max profit target. So I decided to, as it was hitting and kind of bouncing off a resistance and the MA, the moving average, to close it and take those nice profits. So that's that. Let's move on to the news and events. So here's the big news events happening this week. As you know, I keep this on a whiteboard myself. Monday night, we have the Australian dollar with the RBA meeting. That's definitely something to watch. Tuesday morning, we have the US dollar PMI. I don't expect that to move markets a ton. Maybe it will, but it's something worth watching. Tuesday night, the Australian government releases their quarterly GDP, so that's definitely something to watch. Wednesday's free. The US dollar on Thursday, unemployment numbers, and some more PMI. I'm not sure either of those will be huge market movers. Friday, the Canadian dollar unemployment I watched. That seems to move markets recently quite a bit. And, of course, it's the first Friday of the month, so NFP, the non-farm payrolls. That will that one definitely has potential to move the markets quite a bit. And then Sunday night here in the Western Hemisphere, there's no news coming out of Asia or Oceania, and Monday there's nothing worth noting. So a relatively light news week, which is kind of nice. So that's it for the market roundup. If you have any questions or something you want covered in next week's Outlook or some question for this week, you can email me at matthew@mrobertstrading.com. Make sure to visit my website. The link is down below. There you can sign up for a weekly email with some market outlook and insights and whatnot. You can find my Twitter below just to follow for trade ideas and more. Telegram group is below as well. That's free signals. I send out a few Forex and a few stock trades every week. And make sure to sign up for our email list. And with that, we will see you all next week.